Welcome to another CEO Wisdom Pod with Usman Sheikh. He is CEO at XIQ, has a cool background, and XIQ basically is personality driven sales and marketing insights that you get. They use Gen AI mostly from email signatures. So we're going to talk about that. Usman has a background at SAP, huge company, obviously. This podcast is brought to you by podbar.com. That is my podcasting agency. If you want to start, scale, be invited to podcasts and monetize podcasting as a whole is what we do through unconventional methods. So we'd love to help you with that, podbar.com. Usman, welcome to the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself and about XIQ.
Thank you, Charles. Good to be here. My name is Usman Sheikh. I'm CEO and founder of a Silicon Valley-based company called XIQ. XIQ stands for Multiply Your IQ. And we are an AI-powered sales and marketing platform. The genesis of this platform is from my previous role at SAP, as you just mentioned, where I held multiple senior management roles in product management and then eventually rolling out and building out their digital demand generation platform. And today, XIQ is a unique platform because it uses psychology and psychometric testing methodologies to help predict the personality of your prospects. And the way we do this is that we go and pick up information from the public internet. So if you have a public LinkedIn profile, for example, or a tweet or a video that you've done, we can analyze that. And then we can predict what kind of communication style, how to sell to you, how to build a relationship with you. And this comes in extremely handy for salespeople when they're trying to formulate relationships or conduct highly personalized outreach.
Right. So at what price point do you sell, and what's the exact value or ROI that a salesperson can get out of XIQ?
Oh, so that's a great question. So our price point is we sell at an enterprise level. So we're targeting large enterprise customers. Our floor price starts at $6,000 a month, and it can buy you up to 30 users. And then it moves upward based on seats. And as you buy more seats, the price per seat obviously reduces. The value is very important. So today, salespeople struggle in being able to formulate unique emails and communication strategy and stand out in a very saturated crowd of everybody in the virtual and digital space. So XIQ, first and foremost, helps you personalize, identify. It's like you can meet people without ever having met them. Without ever having met them before, you can get some really good insights on them. The second thing our platform does is it helps you craft strategies. So we have a generative AI bot. We call this generative AI bot Gilroy. And today you can ask Gilroy anything, similar to ChatGPT, except that in the case of Gilroy, Gilroy has all the latest and greatest information on companies, including their annual reports, their financials, their C-level executives, the people that work there, all the latest news on them. And it can conduct things like SWOT analysis, for example, or it can tell you what are the business opportunities for the company. And based on that, you can upload your own content into XIQ, and you can start mapping your solutions that will help that company achieve their opportunities. So this is a huge value. It saves salespeople a lot of time in terms of research. It helps them reduce time in terms of looking up things, and also brings a lot of information to them in seconds. And using this information, salespeople are able to stand out, differentiate themselves. What are some of the impacts? How do we quantify that? What we've seen is that people that use XIQ have a 4 times higher deal conversion rate than those that are not using XIQ. We also see that people using XIQ are able to schedule 12 times more meetings than if you were not using XIQ. And this keeps going into email open rates, 37% higher, click-through rates, 48% higher. And then what we have started to measure is that for every $1 companies are investing in XIQ, today it's giving you a return of $350 for every $1. That's significant, guys.
how do you target your folks? How do you get like new customers onboarded? Do you do cold email, LinkedIn outreach, for example?
Well, all of the above. So we do cold emails. Our emails, we've identified an ideal customer profile. As I said, these are the large enterprise, so companies that are $500 million and above would fall into our sweet spot. The bigger, the better. And we have a vast spectrum of clients in many different industries, in the tech industry, in the digital security, cybersecurity industry, in the data storage industry, in the computer hardware industry, software industry. We also have clients in biotech, fintech, and even sports teams are our clients because they're using our platform to sell suites in stadiums. The Golden State Warriors, for example, use our software to help their sales team sell suites. And so once we've got the ideal customer profile defined, then we create emails. And again, we use everything that we use for marketing is our own platform. So our platform identifies who the prospect is, writes a highly customized email. We get very exceptional number of open rates and demos scheduled as a result of using our own platform as well. And then, of course, LinkedIn advertising and LinkedIn posting is also a big way for us to get our name out there.
And the emails, do I have to select them manually and give the robot a go, or are they automatically written and I can send them at scale?
Yeah, you can automatically write these emails. So what we do is you generate one copy, or you can even ask the bot to generate a copy for you. You can just give it some instructions. This is what I want to talk about. This is my special offer. Write an email. It will write that email, but then what it will do is it will take your mailing list, it will upload that and divide it into the different personality types. We use the DISC method. That's basically 4 main personalities. D stands for dominant, I for influencing, S for steady, and C for conscientious. And then there are 128 different flavors of these personality types and communication styles that are there. But for the time being, to manage this, we break it into 4 different styles of email. And then our platform can send out 4 different sets of email to the different personality type in your mailing list. And therefore, it carries a lot of personalization and doing it at a fairly scalable manner.
And why couldn't you release an army of bot that would send these emails at scale? Because to me, it seems that you still need to click send, so you have agents that could do that while you're sleeping.
You can. AI is good, but we always recommend that some human should look at this beforehand, before it goes out. It is still not at a place where the AI itself can send. It's getting better, by the way. It's improving every single day. That's the kind of amazing part of it. But for the time being, and I think a lot of the enterprise customers want to have that control. They want to make sure that what's going out is not just fully automated. We're B2B, it's high ticket sales. There's a lot on the line. There's a lot of branding issues that are involved in that. So having a human do the last mile, so to speak, to just oversee it, make sure everything is fine is a good idea. But once you've done that, you're basically looking at approving 4 emails. And once you've done that, it can go out to thousands of people at the same time, all scheduled to go out.
So why aren't more people doing that if it's 6x's their closing rate and 14x's their meetings booked rate? Is it because of the 6K price point? Is it I'm just trying to ask myself why, because sales teams are sort of struggling this year. Why isn't everyone using XIQ?
Yeah, that's a great question. I ask that question to myself every day. But in all seriousness, we're relatively new in the market. The concept of AI-based, research-based email writing is relatively new. AI has till ChatGPT came out, which was just about a year ago, was considered very suspiciously, it was very skeptically viewed by the audiences in the market. This year, we've seen a total shift even though we've been doing it for 5 years, this is the first year that we've seen a shift. And we've introduced a lot more generative AI. For example, the email writing capabilities is 3 to 4 months old now. The personality prediction is about 5 years old, and we have customers using it. So getting the word out is one topic, one reason why we're still relatively fresh in the market with this. And the second is that companies have invested a lot of money in these heterogeneous landscapes, IT landscapes. They have many different solutions. There's a lot of huge investment, and companies tend to shy away from moving to new technology because they've already got 12 pieces of technology that they have cobbled together into doing one thing. But, Charles, the difference is that the advantages, as you're saying, 4x more conversion rates, 12x more meetings scheduled, the benefits are so huge that companies are starting to realize that the power with which they can do business with this generative AI embedded in their sales and marketing processes is huge. So that realization is just starting to dawn. So I'd like to just share a quote with you and your audience. So McKinsey and Company just released their generative AI report. And in there, they predicted that in sales, there will be a $1.2 trillion in productivity enhancements per year, right? Because of generative AI. So large companies, they're relatively slow to move. Our product is focused towards large companies. They're just starting to realize. And the early adopters are pulling away from the rest of the pack because the gaps are huge, and it widens the gap really, really fast.
What do you predict will happen the next 5 years in the B2B sales landscape with Gen AI?
Yeah, excellent. So I think that the quality of selling is going to become much better, right? Because already we were working with a big software company just yesterday. So we had a call with their sales team, and they said, hey, we need a strategic opportunity assessment done. Our engine, within a few minutes, was able to generate a comprehensive list of who they were going to be having a meeting with, how to approach them, what their synergies were with different people, what are the topics to sell, which solution to position. All of this in a matter of minutes. So what that did is, instead of having a lot of guesswork in sales that is happening today, you've heard of the term consultative selling. I call you up, start asking you, are you doing this? Are you doing that? That will all disappear in the future. And the future salesperson will come in there more as a business partner. They will not come in there to sell. They will come in there to help them. So help them solve a problem. My platform is helping you solve a problem. So the role changes. The style of selling also changes. The type of person that's going to be selling will also change. This will become a person. Today, a good salesperson wears two hats. One hat is that of a data scientist. They're collecting a lot of data, analyzing that data, using that data, and the other is of sales. And in sales, they're managing the human relationships. They are managing the power centers of the buying committee, who's going to make the decisions, what are going to be and they're on the third hand looking at the competitive pressures that are coming. So with generative AI in the next 5 years, all these three areas will become much more efficient. And the seller will be a different type of a seller. This will not be a pushy salesperson that is just trying to have you buy and then I'm going to go away. It's going to be a business partner. It's going to be a thought partner that you're going to be actually engaging with. So what we will see, and we're already starting to see that with COVID, there were a lot of resignations in the sales area as well. And so a lot of the senior sales people have left the market, and this next generation of sales makers is coming into play. And these are people that are very conversant, for example, on video. So doing these Zoom calls, they're very good at doing micro broadcasting, right? These are the tools. And what they're lacking is the experience and wisdom in being able to interpret who they're selling to. That's where our generative AI platform, for example, will come in and help them fill that gap. So it's going to be a very interesting dynamic in the next 5 years with generative AI and AI coming in to help sales. I don't think that in B2B selling, the role of the salesperson goes away, but the diagnosis of what are the opportunities for your clients, what are their pain points, and which solutions, and how you sell those solutions, that's going to be definitely at a much more enhanced and better level.
And how far are we away from me just releasing a swarm of agents that would sell for me like day and night and generate humongous sales extremely rapidly?
Yeah, I think it's not that far away if you wanted to adopt that. I think it will happen more on transactional selling that way. So products and services that lend to more transaction kind of selling. And by the way, the first incarnation, we are already seeing that in e-commerce. And this is fairly big ticket items. I just bought a Tesla a few months ago, and my entire process was human free pretty much, right? I probably talked to the salesperson for about 30 minutes, right? The rest, from test driving the car to ordering it to, it was all online, right? Everything I did was online. Even the financing for the car, everything was done through that. And it was very seamless. It was very quick. It was very easy. So it's already starting to happen. You're starting to see that. And this will just continue to improve. But then there are other products and services that require some configuration, for example, that are more complex, that are going to have much more strategic value. And there's a lot more considerations as well. And, corporate and enterprise procurement also takes into account many different things. So, for example, an enterprise buying products from another company now need to make sure child labor is not being used, that the company they're buying from is not selling to companies that are in quarantine, for example. And so those sort of factors still need to be verified. And where there's going to be multiple decision makers, the progression of agents coming in, automated agents coming in and selling, will be a little bit less, but the process will be a lot more improved.
Right. And what's next for your company? What would be your top 3 goals for next year?
Yeah, so that's a great question as well. So one of the things that we are looking at, so our core motto is to humanize, to use AI to humanize the interaction. That sounds kind of, counterintuitive, right? AI, which is machine, to humanize, which is very emotional based. How does that work? But it does actually, because our AI is using psychology and human behavioral science to actually help sellers and humans understand the other person, which they're having less and less time facing. So one of the innovations that we will be releasing next year is a digital twin. So I can simulate this conversation with a prospective buyer without ever having met them. So when I actually go into the meeting, I am super, super prepared, right? I understand what kind of that digital twin is going to emulate my prospect. What are their challenges? What are the hurdles? What are their objections going to be? And it will also help me understand how to answer those objections. So the digital twin is a big one for us. Another thing we're doing is account planning stays a very big part of B2B selling. So people have to spend a lot of time in preparing strategies and accounts. And we're going to automate that whole process. So, put in a few requests, that process is going to get automated. And the third thing, just like Alexa or Siri, Gilroy is going to become voice driven. And that's going to happen really, really matter of weeks, where you will be asking Gilroy, hey, conduct a strategic opportunity assessment on SAP and tell me what are my sweet spots of being able to sell to them. Which of my products should I sell? Which customer case study should I cite to them? And Gilroy will be able to go and fetch this information, write an each sequence of 3 emails for me so that I can get a podcast appointment with Charles, right? So these are the sort of things that I think that are right around the corner for XIQ.
And what would it mean for the market to have a bunch of AIs swarm at the same time, competition, adapting? What would that mean for the buyer?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think that on the buy side of things also, they're going to be using AI to decipher who's using AI, for example, and analyze things. So I think, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? Because there are, as I say, there's so many data points that need to be covered that the human-driven process takes too long, right? So for example, I'll give a great example, right? Big pain point for me is that companies' procurement processes are extremely slow. They're bound in compliance, they're bound in governance, and they're extremely slow because they're doing due diligence, they're doing IT compliance, they're doing legal checks, they're doing validations and so on, reference checks. And so what happens is that a company that is eager to bring in a solution today, just because of the procurement process, is delayed, right? Months delayed. And that's all converted into opportunity cost. So XIQ, for example, can be deployed in 45 minutes, right? So that means my sales team 45 minutes later can be highly empowered with AI-powered insights, behavioral insights, mechanisms, and I can start working towards improving my 4x and my 12x scheduling. I can also start towards improving my sales productivity that McKinsey cites as going up to 1.2 trillion. However, the delayed procurement process is pushing that out 6, 7, 8 months. And all that time that is lost in just simply being able to procure a solution, a SaaS solution, is costing the company. And it's not only costing the company from efficiency gains, the competitors who are able to move faster are pulling away because they're using these tools to do a better job in giving a great customer experience to their clients, for example, right? So the buyer side, if they bring in AI bots to analyze what a vendor is providing, it will just happen a lot faster. They will be able to come back, raise their objections, identify areas of threats, feed it back to the vendor can respond. And this will mean that companies are able to select better vendors, better solutions at a much faster rate. And that would mean better improvement in efficiencies and gains that way.
What challenges do you expect to face in the upcoming years?
Yeah, so I think the procurement challenge is definitely a big challenge. So getting the cycle moving. I think getting people moved away from the way they have been doing things, right? So sales and marketing for the last 30 years, I think Salesforce was, coming in the late, in the 90s, and was the first SaaS solution, right? And companies, believe it or not, are still moving into Salesforce, right? So it's taken a long adoption curve towards that. And today what has happened is, because of various factors, there's a lot of point solutions. And so therefore, we have a market and an audience out there that is set in its ways of doing things, right? And weaning people off how you do things the old way to a new way is always a change management challenge. I see that as the biggest challenge, is getting the humans over the hurdle. Having said that, AI, the speed of innovation and the change that it brings around is almost critical for companies to start picking up in the ball and running. So we don't have the same luxury of time we had in the last 30 years. The competitive pressures are going to be really, really huge. So it's a make or break moment for companies to decide at this point, I would say.
Where can people find out more about Usman?
So I'm very prominent on LinkedIn. So Usman, USMAN, Sheikh, SHEIKH. My company's website is xiqinc.com. So please look us up, send me a friend request or connection request. And I'm also available on Instagram and on the TikTok and all these new digital channels as well.